To the Beige Planet Podcast. I'm Paul Pate.
I'm Al Lawrence.
And we've got our guest here reigning from the city of Angels, Geo Brawn the fourth, artist, designer. What else? Can you tell us about yourself, Geo?
Ex-porn star. I mean, you name it. I've done it all.
Why did you quit?
I couldn't get anybody to hire me anymore. What are you gonna do? I got old. No, actually, I do all kinds of painting. I do kind of digital art. I do my own line of graphic novels. I have R2-D2 over here on the side. He is not shutting up, so I'm going to turn him off.
Oh, that's all right. He's welcome to join us.
I know. Keeps on going. Here we go. Okay, there we go.
That looked like a bad porno right there.
So no, I do a lot of digital art, and I do a lot of. Oops. I think I lost you.
No. I'm sharing my screen so you can see your page.
I think his video went off.
Oh, okay. He looks like he's coming back. Coming back to us.
Ground control to Major Tom.
There he is. Good. Yeah, man. I'm interested in your. First of all, I have a question. Are you a vampire?
I'm not, but I play one on TV. No.
Okay. Here's the deal with me. When I was a kid, I have older brothers and sisters. So when I was little, too young, we'd watch these vampire movies. And it's the kind of vampire movies not like Twilight and shit like that.
Your vampires didn't sparkle.
Right.
Yeah, no sparkling vampires.
Right. I'm talking about there's a group of regular people out in the wilderness and vampires are attacking them and it's like this big horror, big fight and everything, and I'm scared of all the vampires. And then finally they kill all the vampires, and there's like 3 or 4 of them left. No, there's like 2 people left, and they're making their way out of the wilderness. They're gonna make it to safety, and then the dude finds out his girl next to him is actually a vampire because she got switched, and
that became a formula after a while, didn't it?
Yeah, but when you're a kid, that scared the shit out of me. And I love, now I love it, So
absolutely.
So when
There's
I saw
really only one vampire movie really ever scared me, and that was the Bram Stoker's Dracula.
That was a great one.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Gary
scared the life out of you. I mean, wow, they pulled all the stops out on that one.
Yeah, Gary Oldman nailed it.
He could be anybody. He could be young. He could be old. He could be a werewolf. He just was a shapeshifter galore in that one. It was really kind of cool.
The Interview with the Vampire. You didn't like that one?
Which one?
Interview with the Vampire.
No.
You know what? I liked the idea of the book. I liked the sense of the movie. It did a fairly good job for what it could do in 2 hours. But pretty boy vampires never really did it for me.
Yeah,
exactly. Even in Victorian age, I mean, I know you got to fit in, but nevertheless, it's just didn't seem really kind of worthwhile,
Now, so you've got vampire graphic novels, which I'm interested in.
I do. My first, it's actually my first line of graphic novels, my first trilogy, and I love doing. I mean, if you're gonna do anything, my philosophy is do what you love.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. When I was a kid, much like yourself, I loved monsters. I just absolutely fell in love with everything from, Godzilla to you name it. I mean, any monster you could put in front of me, I was onto. I was just right in the zone. So when I decided, okay, well, I'm going to do this for a living, I said, I'm going to do it about monsters. But I wanted monsters not to be just so blatantly monstrous. I think I wanted to really kind of scare people, because that's one really good way to get readers involved, is kind of get into their psyche to the point where, they're really, really enthralled with your story. So for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to do horror stories. What am I going to do that hasn't been done already? And then I thought, well, great. What am I going to do with this? And I thought to myself, I think the scariest thing that I could think of, like what would scare me?
Yeah.
I think one of the scariest things I could ever imagine is when you don't know that the monsters are really monsters.
Yeah.
The monster living next door to you. Think of, like, for example, Fright Night,
Right.
where, you know,
Classic movie. Classic
I
movie.
love that. I mean, I've met some of the actors involved, and they are just so cool. But it's like, what's that? Yes.
Yeah, that was the original was my fun.
Oh my God! I mean, Jerry Dandridge, you can't get more of a you know, stylish, you know, kind of the way he feels about him. I mean, you could just see the class in the guy, right? You know, red scarf and all, you know. So that character really kind of was awesome, just in the sense that you wouldn't suggest. I mean, he was so charming. You did not, if you weren't knowing that he was a vampire, you just think he's a really charming guy, you know.
Right.
And I love that. I love the idea of the vampire that's so uniquely unassuming, or you know, from the audience, that you wouldn't really know unless you really, really knew. And then if
you invited him in.
So I mean, that was really kind of like, for me, I wanted to do something like that. That was one of the big influencers for me. I loved movies, like I said, so that really kind of drove home the idea of what I wanted to do: make monsters out of people you didn't know were monsters. I mean, that's scarier than anything to me.
Yeah.
Just real quick sidetrack. You mentioned Godzilla. What did you think of the new one?
I loved it. I loved it. You know, one of the big factors of why I love this movie, I really cared what happened to the characters involved. Not to give away anything for those who haven't seen it, but when the people are in peril in this movie, you really are like, oh crap, like you don't want them to die. And that's so rare in today's modern movies, I think. It's just that factor of, I don't care if that person lives or dies anymore, you know? And you see that so often.
I had the exact opposite reaction.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I really didn't care.
You just wanted them all to one big foot stomp. What was that? Remember that old animation, Bambi versus Godzilla? Really cute. It was a really cute, you know, Disney version of Bambi eating the grass, and then all of a sudden, big foot just right on top of it.
Let's see if I can find that.
I love the special effects in it.
Yeah.
My problem was I went into the movie thinking, okay, this is going to be something revolutionary, and it was just the 1950s revisited. With better, and especially the stereotypical Godzilla by the.
They really,
Japanese,
you know what? They did play him up to a little too much to be the hero. I agree with that. He's not a hero. He's a monster. I mean, it's you can't you know, at the end Godzilla saves, you know, world. I'm just like, that's a big freaking monster, man. That thing will eat you. I don't care if you're you know, he's not picking and choosing here. It's like those monsters were in its way. He's going to take care of that first, but that doesn't mean he wouldn't stomp on you leaving, you know. But yeah, I love the old, you know, I grew up on the older version of Godzilla. Ray, God, I can't remember his name now. He played famous lawyer back in his day. But before he did that, he played in Godzilla. He was like the only American actor in this entire movie.
Oh yeah, I remember. I can't think of the name either.
I can't either. It's just total blank. And I know at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to jump up and say, that's who it was. But no,
my other issue was the Mutra looked incredibly like the monster from Cloverfield.
Almost identical if you looked at it. I mean, I was just like, whoa. And I was wondering if they were playing it.
Now, Al, was it you that told me that the designer of the monster was the same guy?
No, I think when we were talking to Ken.
Oh, okay.
I think it was Ken that told us that it may be the same design.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. You know, I tell you, if he got paid to do that, that was the easiest job he's had all his
Right. Yeah. Just take my guy from the last one.
No one's seen that before. Go for it.
Now, Cloverfield, that was a movie that I loved, that I did care about the characters.
Yeah, when that girl, for those of you who haven't seen it, not giving it away again because I hate when people spoil stuff, but when one of the characters, you know, we don't know what's going to happen to her because it wasn't just the monster. In that one, it had parasites that were human-sized, and that's scary. I mean,
Yeah,
things,
especially in the subway.
Oh, it was brilliantly horrific.
Yeah.
I mean, I love how they did that because you don't know what's going to happen. And then the night vision scope, you know, was just like, oh, this is going to suck so bad for the characters, you know.
That's something that scares me is night vision scopes. And whenever I'm watching a movie and night vision scopes become involved, that's when I start getting nervous. It's about not being able to see. Have you ever looked through a night vision scope?
Oh yeah,
I have.
It's pretty much tunnel vision.
Yeah,
and so you can't see things coming at you from the side, and that's kind of it puts you in a box.
Yeah, I think that's weird. I'd much rather get scared from vampires than night vision scopes, especially like out in the woods. You know, it's werewolves, vampires. I know.
The first book I did, Everdance, I really wanted to focus on vampires, but then I wanted to broaden the scope because it's not just about vampires. It's too easy just to focus on one thing.
Right.
And at the same time, I mean, I've seen other things, other storylines, franchises that they go too far. Like I love True Blood. I love the idea of True Blood, but I don't like what they've done with True Blood in the sense that there's so much going on, you can't keep track. Oh, really? And I love the vampires. I love that they're brutal and bloody and they explode and the whole 9 yards. But what I don't like is when you put too much stuff into one story that you can't keep track of it all. And so, it's a fine line. You have to really kind of walk that tightrope.
Well, Geo, let me ask you something. So can we get your book yet? Can we? Because I was on your website.
You can actually order it directly through me.
Okay.
You can order it through KaBlam.com, which is that's where I basically do all my printing from.
Oh, okay. And, let me see if I can get there and I'll share my screen.
I just went offline there for a minute.
You did. Either that or you got really, really bright.
Okay. Now I was going to say here's a new story arc for you involving vampires with night vision goggles.
Right.
Well, that's the Wesley Snipes. What's the name of that one?
Blade.
Blade, yeah. Didn't he use those on Blade?
I love what they did with the first Blade. The second one,
then it got kind of campy.
I mean, I think for what he had to work with, I think Guillermo del Toro did his best. The third one, I'm just like, what are we doing with this? Yeah. Did Wesley need to redo his kitchen or something? I mean, why are we?
So Geo, I'm at KaBlam. What do I search for here?
You can probably find that under the Untold Chronicles, which is the actual. Those three stories are based in that in my world, in my universe, if you will. But these three stories, this trilogy is called the Untold Chronicles. So that's the first trilogy. I'm actually planning. Well, I'm actually working on the next trilogy, and this is actually going to involve a little bit more with angels and demons.
Oh, awesome!
And, I wanted to kind of touch bases on this. It's not just all good and evil in my stories. So there's a lot of gray areas.
Even though I don't believe in that stuff, that's one of the other things that does scare me is those type of movies.
Anything with like demons, like.
The Omen scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, those are great.
The Exorcist. Even before we saw her get the spider walk up the stairs, that movie is.
Here's a theory I've had too, and I don't know if because I grew up my father was a Baptist preacher, and I grew up in a very religious family. That kind of the religious, demons and Omen and stuff like that really. Freaks me out, and it goes back to my childhood. Now I find it fun, it's like, oh my God, that's scary,
I grew up in a Catholic household. My mom made us go to church every Saturday.
Catholics got to be easy to scare, right?
It's pretty much. So, I grew up in that environment, and it just never jived with me. And religion never really.
Yeah.
I think. So for me, the idea of playing with the mythology behind it, I really wanted to delve into not just the Christianity side, but I wanted to delve into the Hebrew side. I wanted to delve into all the different religions, and kind of find their mythological roots and play with them, and basically bring them out of the toy box and see what I could do with different characters. So, and the funnest part about it is, for me, the characters kind of talk to me. And I know how crazy that sounds, but the idea is that when I'm doing the stories, as I'm doing them, the character's telling me where it wants to go. And like, for example, the character of Lilith was only going to be a small minor character in the first book, Everdance. Everdance, a blood story. It was supposed to mainly focus on the fledgling vampire and her empowerment, coming up as, her own, her own vampire, if you will, without a sire.
Mm-hmm.
But I all of a sudden really started having fun with the character Lilith, who's mainly based in Hebrew mythology.
I was just going to ask where you got the name for that character.
Yeah, Lilith is actually, in Hebrew it means night or dark, but the character itself, I love the idea of playing with what would that character be like today. What would it be like in its heyday? Where is its origins? And there is no real origin of Lilith. It's one of those things that basically there's so little on her, it doesn't really focus on any particular beginning. So I really wanted to do something with that to give her kind of her own beginning. And I play with her being an angel who, in as far as we know in Hebrew mythology, Adam was not married to Eve first.
Right.
There was actually a first wife,
Lilith,
and it was Lilith. And I said, well, that's fantastic. I could play with this a lot. And I said, okay, where am I going to go? So I said, well, I'll make him the first wife. I'll make him, instead of being a part of Adam, originally the idea or the character's identity was created from an angel and a human hybrid together. And that idea did not go well. Did not go well at all. Apparently, when you mix the two, that's where the idea of a demon comes from. If it decides to go bad, because basically you're giving a creature that has no real free will initially, will in its human guise.
Right.
And it
cool.
It did not go well for Adam, ergo Eve,
Right.
Better luck next time. But the character of Lilith goes on, and she actually gets, in my stories, exiled to Earth, which is pretty much still a bad land. She's just thrown to the wilderness pretty much, and now she's a creature that wants revenge. So we get to know her story of revenge against her creator, against the other angels who didn't stand up for her, and against humanity. And that all comes into the play of her becoming the mother of vampires.
Awesome.
So,
now, and this is a graphic novel?
This is a graphic novel. It's a 140-page graphic novel. This was my first story. And it really, for me, was my first labor of love. I have to admit, I absolutely fell in love with these characters. I absolutely fell in love with the idea of not only Kate becoming this empowered female character, which was really important for me to make someone who's very weak, but then develop her into somebody who comes into her own. So that's Kate.
Well, you touched on it earlier, and Paul and I have talked about this. Paul hasn't had this problem yet, but you mentioned it, where the characters basically take on a life of their own.
Yeah.
I wrote a story with Paul's read it, claims he likes it, but my main character, she wouldn't let me do what I wanted to do.
Right.
Within, I don't know, the first. I got to the point where, okay, this is where this is supposed to happen, and no, it's not going to happen.
It's like a block.
Yeah, she just said no. I'm not going that route. I'm going this route.
Right.
And a lot of people don't understand how that happens. The writers usually don't understand how that happens. So it just happens.
It's almost like you filter all that energy through. So you're just basically the one who's putting pen to paper or putting, bamboo tablet to computer, what have you. The character of Lilith is supposed to be a really minor character, like I mentioned, and she's actually now going to span. And she spanned the first book, she went into the second book, and then she comes into the whole angel demon mix later down the road.
She's like your Fraser Crane. She's just keep going.
No, absolutely. And
she's got her own show.
Who ironically enough was married to Lilith.
Oh, right? That's
right. I think I was just watching an episode not too long ago, and they touched on that in the storyline.
Yes,
they mentioned the fact, and it's like, oh well, there you go. I mean,
that Lilith was the mythological Lilith. I got you.
Bloodsucker.
I got you. Now, hey, Geo, since you're talking about your story, and Al's talking about his, I want to share with you mine, which kind of ties into yours. The subject. So I got my first graphic novel right here.
Hey, nice.
And hang on a minute. Let me find my guy. Here's my. I don't know if you can see it. This dude on the motorcycle here. Right there. Can we see that? Or?
There you go. Okay. Yeah. Now I see it.
Bubba. Yeah. He's a vampire hunter.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so this book is full of vampires, actually. And
I was wondering where you got Bubba from.
Yeah, he's a character in my graphic novel, and I worked in the story of the vampires out in the wilderness,
exactly.
So because as you said, when you work on a book, you want to do something that you love, Absolutely. So anyway, I worked the vampires into this, and
that is very cool. And I think that's great that you actually did that, in the sense that it's something that becomes a labor of love. It's passion.
Yeah.
It's absolute passion that goes way back in your history.
Yep. And here he is shooting his Gatling gun with full of I think silver bullets, just in case there's werewolves,
Just in case. Sorry, I agree.
You got to be ready, man. You never know.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Wait, I want to get a picture of a vampire. Hold on.
Okay.
Anyway, shit.
My story has actually, as vampires progress over time, they try to alter themselves. They're trying to perfect themselves.
Right.
And so you have, initially it's an angel and a demon. If they try to procreate, which the only one who you can procreate with in this sense would be Lilith, the outcome is vampires.
Oh, all right.
So, and they're a little lesser than either or faction.
Right.
So, for example, there's a strong allergy to sunlight.
Right.
But Lilith doesn't have it. And so, they keep on trying, as vampires progress and evolve, they try to kind of almost force the evolution. And the idea is that vampires, through incantations, through science, through whatever means they try, they can't quite make it happen. And the end result is now you have a whole other level of vampires that kind of come into existence. So there's about 5 different factions of vampires in my story. And some are already obliterated. Some are completely extinct. Others are still walking the earth. And, the closest they ever came was the energy vampire, which looked very human, but they can drain energy from any source necessary. They look, just like you and me.
Here's a cool vampire pic from the book.
Oh, nice.
And then, anyway.
I like your vampire hunter, by the way. I feel a little kinship to him.
Yeah. I got a little video of him, little animation. Jim Lujan got me, wanting to try animation, and so I have a little video of it.
Oh, that's cool.
I'll send you the link to it,
Jim's a great guy. Yes, please do. Jim's a great guy. Love that guy. He's like, it's funny because we both grew up in the same neighborhood.
Wow.
And never knew each other, but it was kind of neat that we actually learned to become like, artistic brothers.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's
really
awesome. One more question about vampires.
Sure.
Vampire stories have been. Where do you think this comes from? Where all of human history seems to be fascinated with vampires. There's got to be something to that.
I think it used to be a big part of it, because back in the day, in the all through the 1800s to the 1900s, there were vampire plays. Like you saw an Interview with a Vampire. Those really did happen.
Right.
The idea of a creature as humans being mortal and having that mortal coil, especially back in the day where anything could kill you. I mean, anything could kill you now, but it was so much more prevalent back then. If you lived to 50 back in 100 years ago, you were lucky.
Right.
And, nowadays, we love the idea. I think it's altered a bit, because back then it was just the idea of an immortal character that had no fear of death. Now, it's the fact that they can become rock stars. It's not enough just to be immortal.
Yeah,
now
you can be an ex-president.
Exactly.
I don't know if you read that book, and I read the book and saw the movie. I love that one.
I thought it was really cool. I thought it was very inventive.
Yeah.
I really loved how because they could have taken it into a completely camp environment, but I love what the movie did with it.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea of him swinging his axe around like just some kind of martial arts master.
Man, it was awesome.
There was just something recently on the History Channel, I believe, and I don't remember it, but exactly what was said. But they gave the history behind like the inspiration and all the research that Bram Stoker did in coming up with Dracula.
When he was sober.
So, yeah. But I guess I didn't retain any of it, so I can't tell you anything. But when I saw it was interesting.
Hey.
Yeah, no, I mean, he really, the idea of I mean, especially back then, because back then you didn't have Google. To find out information, you really had to go to search.
Yeah, I don't even know how people lived without Google.
I know, right? Anything I need.
How did I make it through high school without Google?
Seriously. I'm like, wait.
Google, today's sponsor.
Yeah, we actually got Google to sponsor the podcast, Geo.
Actually,
we're huge.
I went to the same high school as one of the Google founders.
You know what?
He went to East Lansing.
All right, I'll Google this later.
Yeah.
Hey, now, what kind of other artwork do you do, Geo? Do you do tattoos?
I've done tattoo designs, which is kind of nice. It's very flattering for me. It's when someone actually says, yeah, I will wear your art for the rest of my life, or at least until I decide that I want to laser it off.
Right. The reason I bring this up is because I think tattoos are great. I don't have any because I'm not even going to take my shirt off, But I think they're great, like The Rock. He's got a tattoo. I love his thing, it's cool. So my neighbor asked me, hey, I've been thinking about getting a tattoo. Can you do the design of it? And I was like, well, I've never done a tattoo design, and I'm reluctant because I don't know if there's a certain technical aspects to it, and plus, I don't know if I want to see my artwork on somebody's back,
You're going to look back and you're going to go, I should have did that line different. And it's like, ooh, sorry.
Yeah.
No, you know what it was? I initially started doing a lot of tattoo designs before I really pursued art as a career. I had people come up to me because they saw me drawing and they knew me well enough. And they're like, hey, I got this idea. I want a hawk head with a lion's body with talons of this. And I'm like, okay. And I just draw it out for them, and they loved it. The biggest thing about a tattoo, when you're doing a tattoo design, you got to always keep in mind that detail, probably not the way to go, because in 30 years, it's going to be a blur. And so, even the finest of needles, in 30 years, it's not going to look like that.
Right.
So I try to go as non-detailed as possible, and yet still work with everything from the gradations, the shading, all of those factors, and put them all into play to make what they want happen. I've had a lot of people, friends, and then just clients come to me and say, "Hey, I want this," and I mean, if it comes right down to it, and they want this really intricate design. I mean, I've had, these fine little, and I'm like, no, that's not going to look good in 10 years.
Right.
You got to think about that. You got to think about where this is going. What's on your arm? I actually designed both of my tattoos. I have two.
Okay.
And I told myself, I said, okay, what do I want? I mean, I know me. I'm fickle. What am I going to do that really is going to make sense 10 years from now? And I luckily came up with some pretty cool stuff. The first character I ever created was Cherry Bomb, who's the main character in my second story. And Cherry Bomb really kind of brought everything into light for me for the universe of Geo Brawn. So she became somebody that I definitely wanted on my arm. So I did, this is Cherry Bomb.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
See that? So yeah. So it's not even finished yet, actually, because I had the inker, the artist doing it, couldn't get the white to stay on my skin. So she was going crazy with it and trying to get it to stick, and it would not stick on me.
Wow.
For some reason, though, the ink just wouldn't transfer
over.
over.
White ink?
Yeah, they got white ink.
Wow.
And yeah, it was so it still needs to be finished. Actually, now it probably needs to be touched up.
I'm too hairy for a tattoo. That's my problem.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a problem I have too.
I'll slip across my chest because that just wouldn't work. It was too hairy.
Well, what are you talking about? I've seen you in the shower.
Dude, no, like 20 years ago, I looked good without a shirt on.
Oh,
now all the hair that had jobs on my head, now I got jobs on my back.
Right? I'm right there, man. Trust me. There's a reason I just have a shaved head now, and it's not for looks. It's just because it's just going away anyways. I might as well just help it.
That's my problem. Yeah.
Right?
Anyway, let's not talk about that.
So,
we're going off subject, guys. We're going off subject.
I'm sure all your fans want to know, and I saw one of them just a few minutes ago. Fittingly, you have a black cat.
I do. This is Wiley. Oh my God. That's Wiley. And he's my little boy. He actually adopted me.
Oh.
I was walking home from their gym one day, and we had a condo.
Just throws it.
There is cushion there. I swear it wasn't like cement or anything. But no, I had a condo. I was walking home, and this cat jumped out of the bushes, and it was a black cat. And it followed me all the way home, upstairs, the whole 9 yards, and wouldn't leave. So it kind of adopted me.
Nice.
Cats choose their owners.
They do, absolutely, because you can't tell a cat what to do. They'll just, poop on your rug. So it's just how they work. But no, he's great.
Hey, kitty, come here. No, I'm going to poop on your rug. That's pretty much the way they are.
Yeah. Well, I think we could go on all night, but we're to the point, Geo. Every podcast we just tell some dumb, random thing that happened over the past week. So, Al, what do you got? Anything?
Nah, not really much. I overslept this morning and was late to my first job.
No college girls come kiss you on your?
Nope, not this week. Well, they're all gone right now.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true.
That's the problem.
They're looking for me.
There's a cat over my shoulder.
That's a big kitty.
Yeah, okay, yeah, there he is.
She.
Oh, she's a big.
Oh
kitty.
well, here. Actually, I do have one thing. A friend of mine, Michelle, she came across a black cat, kitten, tiny little thing, maybe 5 weeks old. She already has 5 cats, so she wasn't going to take it. I gave it to a friend of mine, and so I grabbed my cat carrier, picked up the cat, took it over, bring it back, and this cat back here, was after I set the cat carrier down, she's like slowly walking up to it and sniffing it, and just starts growling and hissing. Then I'm like, what the hell's your problem, cat? And she starts hissing at me, and I go to pet her. She's batting at me, screaming. She's declawed, so she can't claw me. But she's trying to bite me, and I just started laughing. I'm going, this is like a woman accusing me of cheating. How dare you see another cat?
I swear there's nothing going on. She's just a friend.
Exactly.
I came home from work today. That's exactly what I said to her. I said, "Let's see another kitty."
I mean, yes, I fucked her,
She meant nothing to me.
but it didn't mean anything. I love you. Oh Lord.
That's awesome. I love animals. I have fish. I have cats. I have a dog. I love animals. The animals are great.
What about you, Paul?
This week my wife took and floored the stairs that come down to our basement here with pennies. Covered them with pennies.
Oh, that's what that was. Okay, I saw the pictures. I couldn't tell what you were doing.
Yeah, and so the flooring on the steps is pennies, and then my job was to take polyurethane, paint over top of it to sort of seal it down. So it looks pretty cool. I'll friend you on Facebook, Geo, and
Yeah. I like to see that. That sounds cool. I love creative design.
And the face of the stairs is like a mural of painting that I did, and so that hangs in the stairwell. And so I took that painting and sort of started painting it, extending it on. It's like a cityscape, and extending it onto the face of the stairs. So as if you face the stairs, you can see this painting that goes up the stairs. And then my wife had the idea, the pennies look kind of like a roof, So anyway, I painted one night. I painted one stairs with the polyurethane. It covered it up, let it dry overnight. Come down to check it out in the morning. I'm like, okay, it's dry, it looks good. Turn the light on, makes everything. And I noticed, like, not only was every single penny head up, Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
They were all facing the same way. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, my wife is, meticulous about it. It was pretty impressive. So anyway.
Either that or your house is haunted.
What's that?
Either that or your house is haunted.
Right.
Lincoln.
Some ghost or vampire, right, came by and was like obsessive compulsive, I was going to eat these people, but these pennies, I got to straighten these out first. They saved our life.
Obsessive. You have a ghost that's OCD.
Yeah, there you go. You can put in the next book an OCD ghost or monster. By the way, I wanted to mention one of our guests before, Frank and Jacobs. We interviewed him. He's a novelist, and his story is about angels that came down to Earth and lived as teenagers.
Nice.
And so they were immortal, and so they just continuously went to high school. And I read that book.
So
and
sparkle, and it's okay. That's angels.
Yeah.
Angels
they were, it wasn't like Twilight, but it was kind of different. But it's good. I enjoyed it.
That's cool. That's cool.
Anyway,
I love creative stories in any form. If it's a story you're passionate about, I think it really drives it home. I think you can turn any story. I got zombies.
Yeah,
everybody does zombies. Everybody loves zombies, And I said I wanted to do a zombie story because I got to meet George Romero, and he was super cool.
Really,
he's the godfather of zombies, And it was like, wow, he was just so cool about it. I'm like, I love his movies. I want to do something about zombies, but what hasn't been done about zombies?
Right.
So that's the other factor of what I do is trying to make something really different. So what about a zombie who works like a serial killer and who's not just a lumbering, mess? But what if they actually worked like a serial killer, were very smart, and came? Yeah. What's that?
And very OCD.
Very OCD. Yes, they always had to have the pennies just right.
those pennies are gonna save my
I mean,
life.
can you imagine right there a zombie that's obsessive compulsive?
Yeah, dude, this stuff it writes itself. I tell you.
Seriously. Can only eat brains on the left side, you know.
Yeah.
Right. Oh.
So yeah, that's my
Oh,
third book.
copyright this episode, Paul.
Huh?
We might want to copyright this episode.
Yeah. Well, I know. I mean, I can sit here and just come up with crap, you know.
The creativity is flowing, gentlemen.
Yep. Anyway, do you got anything that happened to you that you want to share over this past week? Cast back your memory.
Well, let's see. Well, earlier today, I had one of my fans actually write me because she liked one of my memes. I do a lot of different things, but one of them I do is Geo's Monday memes on Facebook, and it's basically I pick a theme out of my head, and then I just do various memes about that theme. And I did one this past week that was just the idea was soon. All these different images of something doing kind of a photo bomb in kind of a evil way, and it was always saying soon at the bottom. And I did one, and it was George R.R. Martin. It was a picture of him just with holding his suspenders, you know, and it said something to the effect of I will something like I won't always kill your favorite characters. No, yes, I will soon. And, and then she wrote back and she put a little thing on it. She goes, I so want to have your babies for doing this.
Oh, wow.
Film babies. Okay, rock on. I mean, that's kind of fun.
Yeah. Awesome.
You know you've made it.
When someone says fill me with your babies, that's how you know you've made it.
That's it. You've reached the pinnacle.
The climax, as it were.
Literally. Yeah,
Go. Multiple climaxes, apparently.
if you're lucky, it's.
Yeah, she said
Awesome.
babies.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna get one of these. Maybe I'll just start with your first book from
Awesome.
Untold Chronicles, Everdance, a Blood Story.
Absolutely.
When Kate fell in love with Andre, an ancient vampire. That's my movie voice. I'm reading it from Amazon.com here. So
Nice.
you can find Geo Brawn on Amazon.com. Well, it was great talking to you, Geo. I'd love to have you on, dude. Anytime you want to come back.
You
guys are too cool for school, both of you. I love you guys.
Thanks for coming out.
Appreciate that.
Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Our teachers would agree.
All right. Well, I will. Yeah. Anytime you want to come back, Geo, you're welcome. And
Thank you.
Next time you come out with your next book, how long does it take you to do one of these books?
You know, the 140 pagers, those take about 9 months. It's literally a labor of love.
Yeah.
So it
Are you
takes 9
hand
months.
drawing? Are you
What's
hand
that?
drawing, or are you hand drawing, or using?
I used to actually do it sketch, and then the sketch I would scan in, and then just kind of work on the sketch through Photoshop. Now I just do everything on the tablet itself, and
Wow.
just seems to work better for me.
You're advanced. I still do the sketch on the paper because I tried to do the penciling and inking on the tablet, and I'm slow on the tablet still.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not used to it. It's hard.
It took me, years. I had Photoshop for 2 years and didn't touch it. A buddy of mine gave it to me. And he goes, oh, you'll love it, you'll love it. And I'm like, nah, dude, I'm going to sit here and draw with my MS Paint and call it good. I literally, that's how I started. I had like a mouse and MS Paint, and I was so comfortable using that.
Wow.
I would draw with that. And then I started going, ooh, Photoshop.
Yeah.
Oh,
the power of technology. All right, guys. We're signing off. This has been the Beige Planet Podcast. I'm Paul Pate.
I'm Al Lawrence.
Geo Brawn, great having you, dude.
Thanks again, guys.
Stay killer.
Will do.